If you are watching this video as a recorded session, please try to join us live at some stage in the future. Being live means that you can ask questions by unmuting the microphone or by using the chat facilities, which is part of the Zoom program. It's a very easy program to use. I do hope that you're getting used to the technology. Zoom is one of the ways in which we deliver our program. Moodle, of course, and very importantly, Ucrew. And probably getting an idea of the way the course to be structured. Most of our chat, most of our discussion will occur through Ucrew. Look, by all means, send me an email if you like, but if I believe it's a question that would be for the benefit of all the class, then I'll ask you to re-ask that question through Ucrew. So I hope you don't mind. If it's of a private or sensitive nature, by all means, send me an email and I'll respect that confidence. But where possible, I'd like the discussions between all of us to be in a group forum. I think we'll get the most of it that way. Ucrew is also a great place to join study groups and get your study groups organised. And we've got a few people who've just joined us. I'll get you to mute your microphones if you would. Bottom left-hand part of your page. Thank you very much. So use Ucrew for the discussion points. Now, I trust that you've all got an idea of the assessments that are to be undertaken in this course. Do try to have your assessments in on time, and I'm pretty strict with assessment extension applications. Now, this is very important when it comes to assessments. Be aware that 10 days after the due date, I will have a final cut-off. What that means is that if you don't have your material presented by that time, it will be a 0 mark. If you do wish to apply for an extension of time, and good luck in getting the extension, you do need to apply before the due date. I won't accept any applications for an extension of time if the application is made after the due date. So, and if you can't get your work in on time, don't be afraid to submit it late. You will suffer a penalty of 5% per day for late submission, but at least you're getting some marking through. Okay, when it comes to submission of the work in the assessment piece, do have a look at my sample document. I trust you've all found that. Just give me a nod if you've found that document. Okay, you've had a look at it. There's no particular magic in it, and it's very much a document which is created with my idiosyncrasies. So that doesn't mean it's necessarily right, but it's just something that I've produced, which I think fits the bill and gives you some guidance. So rather than me say, look, I want your work presented in a professional manner, and I want you to footnote, and I want you to indent when you're referencing, etc. Rather than being a bit abstract, that sample document gives you something more concrete to work from. And I don't mind if you use it as a template. By all means, you can use it, cut and paste from it, or just the language to present your work. That'd be fine by me. Now, if you just joined us, I'll get you to mute your microphones. Welcome along to Jenny. Hello. Good to see you.
Hello.
Evan's here as well. So we've got a number of people here tonight. That's really great. So I hope you're getting an idea of the way in which I'd like the work presented. Make it on time as well. Have a good look at all of the entries on the front page of Moodle. They're all there for a purpose. Are there any questions at this stage? Anyone wish to ask a question live? Or you can use the chat facility. The questions can either be done verbally or through the chat facility. Okay, so nothing just yet? All right. It's a good idea to form study groups. I see that a number of you are trying to do that already, which is great. And the Ucrew platform is a terrific way to create those study groups. If you haven't started to work on your assignment, I would encourage you to do that now. Now, I've taken this course a few times, and I've gone about teaching it in different ways. Sometimes I teach the theory side and then I teach the legal research side. Sometimes I reverse it. But this term, I might do a different way. But this term, that's better. All right. Ashley, I think yours is still unmuted. Anne-Marie, if you could mute yours. Lisa. Down the bottom left-hand side, you'll see the mute button for the microphone. I think we're all just about getting there. So what I've decided that we're going to do this year is we're going to do everything at once. That's much better. We'll just study everything right from the start and we'll get cracking into it immediately. So what that means is that while referencing is not necessarily going to be a big part of the assessment piece or assessment number one, I would like you to make a determined effort to try and reference in the appropriate manner. An easy way to get an idea of that is just look at my sample document, or look at the textbook, or look at the way judges do this in cases. And you'll see in law, we tend to use footnotes for referencing. We don't use endnotes, and we tend not to use the Harvard style of referencing that some of you may be familiar with. So if, for example, you're quoting something from page 3 or paragraph 30 of a particular case, then you should, generally speaking, make reference to that in a footnote. All right, so have a look at my sample document and ask some questions through UCRU if it's starting to become a bit confusing. Exam preparation starts now. What I mean by that is that from time to time, tonight included, I will give you some tips on what's going to be in the final exam. The final exam, from memory, requires you to answer 5 of 7 questions. I hope I'm right with my recollection of that. And each question would be worth 10%. The questions will be essentially essay-style questions, with one exception. Every year I do this, I put in a redrafting exercise. What I will present is essentially what I call gobbledygook. It says something, but it takes an awful long time to say it. And your task is to reduce what is being said, the intention of what's being said, and rewrite it. This is in the exam, down to a maximum of 100 words. Now, why am I telling you this? Because I think it's important, where possible, to use an economy of words. Who was it that said something to the effect, I would have written you a much shorter letter, but I didn't have time to do that? In other words, the point of it is sometimes writing a shorter piece is actually harder and more time consuming than a long piece. I'll give you something to think about later tonight when it comes to that. So exam preparation starts now. If I give you a hint, if, for example, I say to you, on the exam there will be a question about the separation of powers, the separation between the function of Parliament, the function of the executive, and the function of the judiciary, you should write that down, because then you can start thinking about how you would word that. And that will be on the exam. So there you go. We're 5 minutes into it, you've already got an exam tip. In fact, you now know 2 of the 7 questions that will be on the exam. All right, so write that down, make sure you keep it in mind. The focus of this course will be aimed at those people that wish to practice in law. For those of you who don't wish to practice as a lawyer, I extend to some degree my apologies, but that's what we're all about. We're starting you now in your training to be a practicing lawyer, whether you practice or not. And you've got to start thinking like an effective lawyer. Now, that means a whole range of different things, but I think what encapsulates it the best is the quote that you'll see at page 267 of The New Lawyer. And in that, the authors say, thinking like a lawyer means keeping a cool and clear head and speaking and behaving rationally when others around you may be panicking or overreacting. It's really important to keep that in mind. Through your studies and into practice, if you practice in law, you will find yourself in stressful situations. In practice, it happens all the time. Now, you can give into it. You can give into it very easily. You can start to stomp and scream and say this is all too hard, or you can stay cool and calm, focus on the job, and just calmly get the job done, even if people are panicking around you. So keep that in mind through your studies, and expect that when you start to practice in law. So How do you go about your studies in an effective way? How do you go about practicing law in an effective way? This might seem a bit silly, but it seems to me that very often what you should do is think backwards. You should think about the end result that you're trying to achieve. Think about the steps that logically need to be undertaken and completed to achieve that final result, and then go about determining how and when you will embark on those tasks on the way through. It also means thinking about the consequences of not doing something if you fail to do it. Now, in law, there can be some really nasty consequences that you want to avoid right from the start. One of the most obvious ones is that if you are asked by a client to initiate proceedings, start some court action, what you don't want to do is miss the time limit for initiating that court limit. So a particular action may be subject to a time limit under the statute of limitations. It may be that you have 3 years to initiate that court action. Don't leave it 3 years and a month and then lodge your claim. You're going to feel terrible about it. So you need to set up procedures and practices to ensure that you don't miss out on those important time limits. I'm going to ask a little quiz. You can answer through the chat facility or you can come in live. And that is, why do you think it is that over the past 30 or 40 years of practice, I have adopted a keys in the fridge attitude? Does that make any sense? Let's see if anyone can work that out. Why would I leave, on occasions, my keys in the fridge? It's very important. No one on the chat facility yet? Think about... More important than that. Right, Jesse's on the platform, so I don't forget that. Now, someone's not muted the microphone and it's coming through fairly noisily. Is that you, Andrew? All right, so you don't forget something. Somebody does the same thing. Why is it important that you don't forget something? Because of the consequences. What's all that got to do? Memory trigger, thank you, Peter, yes. So what's all that got to do with thinking backwards, being concerned about the consequences of failing to do something that's important, being really annoyed with yourself if you don't follow through? Why would I leave my keys in the fridge? No one yet? Professionalism, yes. But to whom? Routine, I like that. I like routine, I like professionalism, I like habit. But why? Why would I think about leaving my keys in the fridge? To take the milk home. Who got that one? That's it. And why is it important to take the milk home? Keep cool, structure, yes. Why is it important that I put the keys, happy wife, happy life, Anne-Marie's got it. Thank you very much. Because when you're really busy at work and you've just got so many things going on in your mind and you're asked to bring the wife, you're asked to bring the milk home, what you don't want to do is arrive and not have the milk. Because then you'll be thinking, oh my God, that was just so easy for me to do. That's the easiest task I had all day. And I'm really, really upset with myself. I'm disappointed with myself. So what's the moral of this story? Well, I happen to have a lovely wife, so don't be concerned about that. But why is that important and why would you do it straight away? Because it's something that you want to avoid.